Hello everybody, I'm Quentin and I just wanted to talk a little bit about recording slideshows as video presentations. A lot of us in the university here are having to do this year because things that we've traditionally given as lectures at the front of the lecture hall with a slide presentation behind us are now having to be delivered online. So there are various ways you can do this, obviously. One is you can just talk to your slide presentation. You can record your screen as a video and you can maybe use some clever software to overlay video of you from time to time or throughout the presentation on top of your slides. That's a perfectly valid way to do it. But you do end up creating a video which then needs video editing if you want to take out any hesitations, if you want to go and redo some part of it, if you discover that you made a mistake and you have to change one slide or whatever. It does involve video editing, and if you're not familiar with non-linear video editors, this can be quite a challenge. So I just wanted to look at an alternative way of doing this, which is to use your slideshow essentially as the video generator. And this has some advantages in that many people know how to use slideshow software like PowerPoint and Keynote, maybe more than they do how to use Final Cut Pro or one of the other major video editors, Premiere, for example. So the disadvantage of this, of course, is that it only really works for talks, lectures that are very heavily slideshow based. So if you're someone who is more about standing at a lectern and engaging with your audience in face-to-face contact, then you may want to pick another way to record your lectures. But if you are primarily talking about the slides that are on the screen, then this could be a useful thing. What we're going to look at is how you record and play back audio and how you manage that through your slides. I'm going to do this with PowerPoint here, and I should say I am not an expert at all at PowerPoint. I much prefer Keynote. I use Keynote wherever I can, but I was doing some exploration here in how you might do this in PowerPoint, so I thought it was worth making a little video about what I discovered. So what we're going to do here is look at this very simple 3-slide presentation. And I am going to start by just showing you how you can attach a bit of audio to a slide. So I'm going to do this way. I'm going to pick Insert Audio here, or you could do something similar using the ribbon toolbars if you like those. You can go Insert Audio, and I'm going to say Record Audio. And I'm going to give it a name. In this case, I'm going to call it Slide 1, and I'm going to start recording. Here's a presentation about how to make presentations. That's a bit recursive, isn't it? And if I stop that and I do Insert, what we get is this little icon that represents some audio and is attached to that slide, and I can play it back. Here's a presentation about how to make presentations. That's a bit recursive, isn't it? And this will actually normally appear on your screen. You may wish to shrink it or hide it or do other things with it if you don't want it to be visible. But one thing you can then do is you can go to the the playback menu on the ribbon here, and you can choose when this audio starts playing. So if you have several of them on a single slide, you may want to control them through clicks, but usually I want automatically here, so it says start automatically, and that means that when you start playing the slide, the audio will start. So let me just fire up a slideshow. Here's a presentation about how to make presentations. That's a bit recursive, isn't it? I will come back to that slide in a minute. You see that I didn't need to do anything. I didn't need to click or anything there. It just started when the slide started. I can go on to the next slide and say and record some audio for this as well. I'll do it this way: Insert Audio, Record Audio. This is one of our neighbours who is regularly visiting us even during lockdown and seems to have very little idea of social distancing. Insert that, I'll put it wherever we want to put it, maybe make it a bit shorter, and so on. Oh yes, I nearly forgot, I want to make that one also play back automatically. So again, when the slide appears, this will play back and so forth. Now, we'll come back to this in a sec, because I'm going to show you another way which people are probably more familiar with here. I'm going to delete this. I'm going to go here and delete this. And yes, don't have any on there at the moment. So the other way you can create a narration for your presentation is to go slideshow, record slideshow here. And let's do this. So hello everybody, I'd like to give a little presentation about how you can use your slideshow to drive the audio narration that is associated with your presentation, rather than having to record that separately as a video. While I was thinking about this, one of our local neighbours came around and visited me in the garden. And then finally, I went on to a beach and saw a beautiful sunset, which seemed like a good way to wrap up the presentation to me. And that's the end of the show. Now, when you record a slideshow like that, firstly, you'll record the narration. So if I play this back, it will play those in order. But secondly, you'll see that there are now times associated with these slides, which means that if it is automatically advancing, it knows how long to spend on each slide before it does so. So if I go and play this back, you'll get to see my beautiful presentation again. So hello everybody, I'd like to give a little presentation about how you can use your slideshow to drive the audio narration that is associated with your presentation, rather than having to record that separately as a video. While I was thinking about this, one of our local neighbours came around and visited me in the garden. And then finally, I went on to a beach and saw a beautiful sunset, which seemed like a good way to wrap up the presentation to me. Okay, so there you go. Not perhaps the most dramatic presentation, but you get the idea. Right, now, what has actually happened behind the scenes here? This was the thing that I hadn't realised. I thought this was something over which you had no control, really. You could record it. If it didn't work, you had to go back and re-record it all from scratch. But it turns out you can go in and you can do some interesting editing with this. So if I look at this now, I've recorded my narration, you'll see that down in the corner there is one of these audio items, and if I go to the playback menu, it has inserted it with the start automatically set for me. So there you go. You can basically replace this very easily just by inserting an audio segment, as we saw earlier. So that's a very easy way to go through and edit your video. When you do that, you still need to edit the timing on the slide to make sure that it advances after the correct period. If, for example, I were to replace this audio clip here with a longer one, I would have a problem because the slideshow would still auto-advance after the recorded time. I don't want to go back and re-rehearse all of my slideshow in order to fix this. But it turns out that if you go to the transitions menu here, over on the right-hand side, you can see this little box here. This is when the slide should advance. It should advance when there's a mouse click, it's a transition to the next slide, or it should happen after a specific number of seconds. And so if you go in and you re-record this, or want to add a delay at the end of it or whatever, you can do that by changing this number of seconds here. So suppose I wanted to change my audio about one of our neighbours. I'm going to get rid of the narration that's associated with it, which at the moment, by the way, you can see is just under 7 seconds long. I'm going to insert some audio. I'm going to record some, and let's replace the audio I had before. While I was doing this presentation, a very handsome neighbour came around from one of our local hedges and spoke to me in the garden, and he advised me that I should have a longer narration associated with this particular slide. Now we can see here, actually just before I hit insert, that this is actually 14.3 seconds long. I'm going to insert that into the slide, and I can play it back if I want to. While I was doing this presentation, right, and I can also see how long it is, and I can use that information to go in here and say maybe that I actually want this slide to advance after 15 seconds, say. And now, if we go back and we play the slideshow. So, hello everybody. I'd like to give a little presentation about how you can use your slideshow to drive the audio narration that is associated with your presentation, rather than having to record that separately as a video. While I was doing this presentation, a very handsome neighbour came round from one of our local hedges and spoke to me in the garden, and he advised me that I should have a longer narration associated with this particular slide. And then finally, I went on to a beach and saw a beautiful sunset, which seemed like a good way to wrap up the presentation to me. So there you get the idea. I have been able to go in and do essentially video editing on this presentation, replacing a chunk of audio associated with a particular slide, and changing the duration of that slide before it moves on automatically to the next one. When you've done all of that, you can then go File, Export, and I can choose to export it as a movie. Again, these options may be slightly different on Windows, I'm not sure. I can do that, use the recorded timings and narrations, and I'm going to just save it on my desktop actually. You couldn't see, by the way, but I wasn't, when I was doing that presentation, I wasn't advancing the slides manually at all. They were just clicking through at the timings that were set. And I'm going to use the recorded timings and narrations, export that to my desktop, and let's open that, and there we can see the movie, nice 1080p video. So hello everybody, I'd like to give a little presentation about how you can use your slideshow, my audio in there, and this is then really quite an easy way to create a video presentation. Now, you will note that you can't see me, you can't see the speaker in here, and so if you wanted to do that, you might actually decide that from time to time you wanted to record a little video of yourself, and I think we can probably do that here. Ooh, can we? No, we probably have to record the video first and then insert it here, and so you could actually have a view of you on the screen as part of the video, which you would pre-record in the same way as we have these little attachments here, these audio attachments, and you could even arrange through the animations and the timings that perhaps the audio played before or after the video, and so forth. But I just thought that was perhaps an interesting way for people who don't want to get involved in heavy video editing to be able to go back and modify the audio and then easily create a video from it. I hope that's useful to someone. Thanks for listening.